Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the mandatory webinar about the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with WTS Novus Fields. Today, we're happy to hold our second session for the year. The first session was with Environmental Protection Agency, and today we have the Standards Board and also members from the business community, and particularly we have Unilever as part of the panel. So we are happy, and I would like to thank the leadership of the Executive Council and the members, the management team of the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce, Ajoba, and her team for this initiative. So we'll kickstart. The program is supposed to last for 2 hours. And so today we're changing the role of it. It's not just going to be a regulator speaking, but we're also going to have business community providing an insight as to how these regulatory issues are affecting them as well. So we have Ms. Joyce Okoree, who's the acting director for certification at the Certification Directorate of the Ghana Standards Board. So I'll give the background of Mrs. Joyce, then I go to the next person as well. So Mrs. Joyce is currently the acting director for certification at the Ghana Standards Board. Until recently, she was acting director for Standards Directorate, a position she's held since 2019. She holds a bachelor's degree in food science and nutrition from University of Ghana and an executive master's in business administration, particularly project management option from the University of Ghana Business School. She has over 28 years business experience in the field of standardization, conformity assessment, and food safety. Her working experience spans over years and includes ensuring public and private sector participation in standardization activities and increasing awareness and usage of national standards in industries and commerce. She has several experience in conducting inspections and quality audits of food processing establishments, and also to ascertain compliance and training of small SMEs in the requirement of standards, as well as export and import requirements, and training of standard officers in good standardization practice. She has a WTO TBT agreement transparency provision. She's currently involved in the implementation of the TBT agreement transparency obligation at the national level, and as well as also National Notification Authority. So that will be major choices coming from the Ghana Standards Board. We also have Isaac Blankson, who is Product Quality Excellence Lead at Vivo Energy. So for Isaac, he has a master's in analytical chemistry complemented by management studies. He has over 15 years experience in oil and gas. And so Isaac also certified auditor ISO 9001 and ISO 45001 and ISO 14,001 standards. So Isaac is also coming out with a perspective from the business community. We also have Basil Yaw Ampofo. Basil works with Unilever Ghana Limited. He is the global compliance manager, product manager. Basil currently serves as the global. He has over 13 years experience in regulatory affairs within the FMCG industry in Africa. His expertise in regulatory compliance, advocacy, and environmental sustainability, quality, and research and development. He has passion for sustainability and is a founder of the Ghana Recycling Initiative for the private sector. So these are our panel members. And for me, I am the managing partner for WTS Ghana and also a law lecturer at the UPSA Law School. At the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce, I'm an non-executive director. I'm a lawyer and a certified tax advisor. In terms of educational background, I went to Oxford University, where I did my MSc taxation, which is equivalent to LLM taxation from Oxford University. My background, having worked in Ernst & Young, qualified solicitor in England and Wales. I'm a lawyer in the Ghana Bar Association and also a key member in the Ghana Chartered Institute of Taxation, Ghana, and also a member of the Independent Appeals Task Board. So I'm happy to have this conversation If you have any questions, you put in the chat box and we will go through the process. So we'll take the first presentation from Madam Joyce.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And my name is Joyce Okoree. I know I've been introduced. I'm the Acting Director, Certification Directorate, Ghana Standards Authority. So I'll quickly share my screen and then we get going. Okay. So my topic for today is the role of Ghana Standards Authority in promoting local and international trade. I have a tall order today, and I have been told I have only 10 minutes, and I'm sure the moderator will be kind to me. So I'll just do a quick run through my outline. I have an introduction and a national quality policy about GSA, the GSA Act, the GSA Mark of Conformity, our scope of certification schemes, mandatory standards, inspectors, the National Metrology Institute, industrial support, trade facilitation and consumer protection, GS's role in the AFCFTA, access to new markets and improved trade, adherence to standards and certification for increased regional, national, regional, and international trade, other efforts by GSA to promote local and international trade, and then I have a conclusion. So we know why we are here today, and the main issue and topical issues of discussions that we need to increase our local and international trade to provide opportunities and increase market share. And then I'm sure every SME is looking out to be able to trade nationally and internationally, and even regional markets, reach regional markets. And to do this, you would need a robust national quality infrastructure that basically is going to hinge on standardization, accreditation, conformity assessment, and metrology. And these are aligned with standards, both our local and international standards. And that facilitates Ghana's industrialization and economic growth. Industrialization accelerates, and as industrialization accelerates and trade exports increase, there's a need for quality infrastructure services. So now I would like to talk about the national quality policy, and I think GSA had a good input into this document with the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And Ghana government has initiated a comprehensive industrial transformation and private sector development agenda. It's outlined in a 10-point industrial transformation agenda. So at the heart of this agenda lies the national quality policy, which is it's an essential quality infrastructure support for industrialization, entailing standards, development, testing, facilities, calibration services, inspection procedures, accreditation systems, and measurement capabilities. So a brief about GSA, our mandates. We are responsible for the management of the national quality infrastructure, and it's hinged on standardization, metrology, conformity assessment, and accreditation, as I mentioned earlier. Our vision is to become a customer-focused, world-class standards organization, and our mission is to contribute towards the growth of industry, protect consumers, and facilitate trade through standardization, metrology, and conformity assessment. So our services include testing, inspection, certification, standards development, calibration and verification, library and trade-related information dissemination, training and sensitization and public education. The GSA Act 1078, 2022, the date of assent to this standard, which is our new act, is the 30th of June 2022. It establishes the Ghana Standards Authority. And I think we got the National Quality Policy about the same time, 2022. So I've teased out some relevant objects of GSA that will align with our topic for today. So our objects are to establish, promulgate, and maintain standards to ensure high quality of goods and services that are both local consumption and for export, or imported for local consumption, and to promote standardization and methodology across various sectors, including industry, commerce, health, and other services. We also promote conformity assessment in industry, commerce, and other services to ensure adherence to established standards, and to become a member or affiliate to an international body concerned with standardization, conformity assessment, metrology, or related matters. This mainly is to stay updated with and aligned with global standards and practices. And we know that we need to trade beyond the shores of. So you also want to have, you want to align with international standards and to be able to meet the international markets. So I would like to talk about the mark of conformity, which is basically giving permission for products conforming to the requisite standards to bear a mark of conformity called the standard mark. And it's essentially providing evidence of compliance to specifications. And a product bearing this mark carries a third-party guarantee. That's an assurance that the product has been inspected, tested, and conforms to the requirements of an accepted standard. So this is the mark of conformity, and I know most of us are familiar with it. We find them on our products that have been certified by the authority. So for our scope of certification, there's ISO 22000, the Food Safety Management System standard, the Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point, that's HACCP, the Environmental Management System, that's ISO 14001, the Quality Management System, which is very popular, the 9001, and then the Health and Safety Management System, 45000. So adherence to standards, the benefits of adhering to standards. So complying to standards can ensure that Ghanaian products meet specific quality and safety criteria that's improved product quality, and to enhance the reputation of Ghanaian products and builds trust among consumers and importers. It allows exporters to demonstrate their commitment to producing high quality products, which can positively impact their export potential. Product standards prioritize consumer safety and protect against potential health risks. Adhering to standards ensures that products meet the necessary health and safety requirements, reducing the product recalls or negative incidents. It also enhances consumer confidence in products and supports their export potential. So mandatory standards. So by virtue of coming through GSA to have your product certified, you more or less have to comply with these standards, and therefore they're kind of mandatory standards. But a typical mandatory standards, it's a recommendation that the Minister for Trade, for example, would endorse, and then in respect of a particular commodity which is bordering on public safety, health, or environment, and is declared as mandatory, and then it's gazetted. So our standards are usually voluntary, but if you want to enforce them, make them mandatory when they border on public safety, health, and environment. So to facilitate all of this, we have inaugurated over 3,000 trade standards inspectors, and that was in 2022 for the performance of the specific purposes of the Act. And the quality inspectors are undertaking various roles in enforcing standards on the markets. So GSA is the National Metrology Institute. I brought this up because we're used to just the Metrology Directorate under the GSA, but it is the National Metrology Institute by law. And it's in accordance with the requirements of the International Bureau of Weights and Measures. So for a national quality infrastructure, you would need some industrial support, and basically it promotes standardization and facilitates quality improvements, environmental sustainability, and safety by providing training to industry and public institutions. And some areas of training include the quality management systems, the food safety I had mentioned earlier, environmental, patient health and safety, laboratory management, good hygienic practices, and some tailor-made training. So still under trade facilitation, the law, that is the Act 1078 in some sections, it prohibits, in consultation with relevant government agency and in the national interest, the sale or manufacture of any kind of goods that does not conform to the applicable standards, and to maintain the necessary machinery to provide for the issue of a certificate to the effect that goods prepared and manufactured for local consumption are of required standard, and that goods for exports comply with the known requirements of standards in the country to which they are about to be consigned before the export of those goods are permitted. And also to prohibit the importation of goods which do not conform to the applicable or prescribed mandatory standards. And these are all provisions in our new Act. Now, I'd like to talk about GSA's role in the AFCFTA. So the main standards that are driving the AFCFTA is the African Organization of Standardization. So that's the ASO regional standards. So in this regard, Ghana is a member of ASO, and we're playing an active role in harmonizing of standards within the region. And basically is to create a liberalized single market for goods and services. And this is also to promote standardization, enhance trade, facilitation, and competitiveness within the African and global markets through the enforcement of standards for socio-economic development. Currently, standards are being harmonized in the ECOWAS region as well as in the African region. So many countries have specific standards and regulations for products. Harmonizing products, production practices, and product specifications can help eliminate technical barriers to trade and increase export opportunities. So through the AFCFTA, the largest free trade area in the world, Ghanaian businesses stand the opportunity to more than double their exports. So we're looking at enhancing our testing capacity. And recently, GSA has a new AC, that's an air conditioning and refrigerator testing facility, an electricity meter testing laboratory, and then a universal tensor strength. These are just to build capacity to be able to look at other areas we didn't have capacity for. And then we want to deepen our collaboration with government agencies, industry and associations, and other certification bodies. And we're looking at going into import certification, which is yet to commence. So I'd like to conclude more on the quality infrastructure, which GSA is playing a pivotal role. So quality infrastructure is critical for trade, innovation, and competitiveness to increase market access, increase exports, increase product diversification, increase investment opportunities, and benefit from trade agreements. To improve firms' productivity, to reduce the cost of trade and cost of doing business, benefit from economies of scale due to improved working methods and standardization, enhanced innovation and technology transfer, and protect public good like public health and safety, consumer protection, which has been reiterated earlier, social protections and labor conditions, and environmental protection. Overall, GSA's activities facilitate quality and market access and builds trust among consumers, exporters, and importers. Measures in the form of standards, technical regulations, conformity assessment procedures, and accreditation, as well as market surveillance, are major facilitators of local, regional, and global trade. Quality infrastructure is vital in maintaining competitiveness and strengthening global supply chains. Thank you very much. So I just have some contacts. Our social media handles.
Thank you very much, Madam Joyce. Thank you very much for such an insightful presentation on the role of the Standards Board in the value chain of international trade and local trade. I would go to other panel members, then we'll come back and take questions, and so that at least there's efficiency in the time allocation. Okay, so Basil, let's hear from you.
Okay, so good morning to everyone. And as mentioned before, my name is Basil Yaw Ampofo, and I work with Unilever. So I will be presenting from the industry our perspective on the role of the GSA in promoting local and international trade. So the advantages that we have noticed or we have observed are: one, product quality and brand trust. As mentioned rightly by Madam Joyce Okoree, GSA is part of the international body of ISO, and as such, this is a global body that's built that develops product standards globally, which are adopted at the regional level. And as GSA being part, when you adhere to the GSA or comply with the GSA standards, it gives the assurance to the consumers that the product meets the required global quality and safety standards, which enhances consumers' trust and confidence in our brands. Now, with as she mentioned before, on the coming in of the AFCFTA, this provides a level playing field. So we can effectively compete in markets outside Ghana and differentiate ourselves based on the quality of our products because we are complying with these standards. Now, as part of the conformity mark certification scheme, as she mentioned, the GSA annually conducts audits at these production sites where they have a robust system audit right from sourcing of materials to production to the finished goods and all that. So it provides us as industry the advantage of having a continuous monitoring of our product processes, regular quality checks, and investing in employee training to maintain high standards. And in doing so, it helps us to be more effective and stay ahead of the curve. And as mentioned before, with the AFCFTA, where you are trying to harmonize trade across Africa, it also promotes the export of Ghanaian products. If you comply with the Ghana standards, it gives you that assurance or gives a consumer that assurance that the product is of high quality. And this is something that is accepted globally. So it enhances or promotes the export of Ghanaian products outside the shores of Ghana. However, there are some few challenges that I would like to present that we are facing with the Ghana Standards Authority. So one, most of the time, some of the changes that the GSA would require of industry involves significant capital investment in technology and infrastructure, which can impact on our operational costs. What happens is that most of the time this raises, because you need to invest in perhaps new equipment, new technology, hire more people and all that, it raises your production cost, and most often than not, that is transferred to the consumer. So goods become expensive. And then also for the products, the GSA logo conformity assessment program, what we've observed is that usually it takes quite a while for GSA to be able to certify the products. And so most of the time, you have, let's say you have the inspection today, for them to do the testing and all that. Sometimes there's they're resource constrained and all that. So most of the time it takes quite a while before you get it. So I would use this platform, and since Madam Joyce Okoree is here, to plead that if that could be looked into, so that for us as industry, it helps us to be always compliant, always, okay? And to sum up, despite these challenges that we face, it also serves as opportunities for innovation and process improvements. So when GSA makes as I mentioned before, their recommendations they will make, which will involve some sort of training, some sort of investment in anything, it helps us to be innovative, stay ahead of the curve, bring competitive or new technologies that would benefit their consumer and give them their money's worth. So that is all from me. Thank you. And over to you, Theophilus.
All right, thank you very much, Basil, for your presentation. So it's time for us to take questions. So I would randomly ask questions, and I would check from the chat box to see what questions we have there. So I'll go to Madam Joyce. Madam Joyce, I'm happy that we are here, and most of the issues borders on standardization and certification of products, because if you're talking about international trade, then it starts with standards board in terms of how the product is seen as quality in the market. So I want to understand from your end, what processes must a new business seeking to register its product go through from the standards board, so that the product in question will become acceptable to the market, whether locally or internationally?
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, it has to be a registered business. I mean, and then you go through an application process, and on our website, you would have a list of the requirements needed for certification. So you could write to the Director General on your intention to certify a product, and then with that, you would then fill an application form, and then once we receive that, we can then schedule an inspection to come and look at the facility, and then sample some of your products, and then bring them to the lab. And then there's a committee that would sit to review the test results from the laboratory, and as well as, in fact, there's a smaller committee that would look at the inspection reports and then the test results from the laboratory. And then there's a bigger committee that would do the final evaluation, and then decide on whether to give you the licenses, the permit or the license for a period of 3 years. 2 years, forgive me. So it's a very straightforward process, and you should be able to go to our website and review whatever information then, or you can even walk to the head office, and you'll be assisted with the application. There are a few things you would have to put together, a quality manual. I mean, there are more technical issues, but once you come here, you would be assisted to get the form filled, and then once you present it, we just take it up from there. It's a very, very simple process. Very simple process. So you just pay the fee, and then we will take it up from there. But I know that we are, I want to bring in this because we are harmonizing our processes with the regulator, if it's for food, for example, so the FDA, so that it becomes like a one-stop shop. Once you are able to go through, we've kind of harmonized our processes, so you should be able to get the GSA certification as well as the FDA registration with one simple process. And it's just to streamline it and make it easier for SMEs and other businesses to get the certification and registration, for example, for a food product or cosmetic product. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know a couple of years there was a carve out of the food section from Standard Sport to FDA specifically. So is it that food can still be brought to your end, or because you talked about product can also mean food as well? So what's the distinction between your role and the FDA specifically in respect of registration?
So the FDA is the regulator, and then the GSA is the conformity assessment body, and we have a quality mark that also enhances your marketability. And by our law today, it is mandatory to have the mark, but I'll say the food, cosmetics, medical devices is under the ambit of the FDA. But noticing that people want to have both the mark, the GSA mark, as well as the FDA registration, they want us to try and streamline our processes to be able to get the two, if you can get me. It is food products is by FDA. FDA is the regulator. That's a fact. But we have noticed that the SMEs and other, businesses want to have the two. Our mark is available for use. And so if you are interested to use it, you can always approach us. And then you get the two basically. I mean, it's being discussed, and I'm sure it must be taking off in the next couple of weeks or a month. It's almost there. So GSA is really more of a standards body and conformity assessment body. We only come in as a regulator for products that do not have a regulatory body. So, for example, if you take the cement industry, there's no regulator, so we are like the default regulator, and it applies to other other sectors. Yes.
Okay. I mean, thank you very much for that clarity. So, in effect, every product still needs the mark from Standard Sport. So, even having gone through an FDA, they still need to come to your end for the certification.
I will not say it is mandatory to have the mark, but I would also say that it is a marketing tool that people have come to understand. And because of that, we have come into a kind of MOU with the FDA so that we are able to harmonize our processes, and then get the GSA mark, the mark of conformity, as well as the registration for FDA.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that clarity. My second question is on whether your processes are similar for all products, or you have a specific simplified process for the products, or the requirements are quite different for some of the products.
Whether our processes are similar for all products.
All products, yes.
The application form is generic. It's for all products. But obviously the products, if it's food products, we have the chemical labs, and then if it's a non-food or more of engineering products, then it will go to the samples will go to the engineering labs. But the processes are the same. They're the same. You just have to list out your processes in the application form. There are some requirements you need to fulfill, and once you have done that, an inspection is scheduled, samples are taken, test is done, and it's just a fluid process. It's straightforward. You know, I just know that we are looking at trying to have a certification, a stratified certification system where we can bring up the smaller micro enterprises or MSMEs, sorry, micro, small, and medium enterprises, you know, so that they are able to meet some critical parameters or requirements in the standard. You know, so if you take a product, you want to look at the key high risk, you know, parameters that it's very essential that those parameters are tested, you know, that are bordering on health and safety. So you not do the full haul. So I think those are also things that are in discussions, you know, where typically you'd want to bring up these SMEs to a level where they can gradually upgrade and then also meet the standards like Unilever and the Nestle's, etc. But we need to be able to assist them so they don't operate underground, but gradually bring them on board, and so they can meet the bigger players in the market. So
Okay.
it's being considered. It's done in other countries. I know Kenya has a scheme of some sort that is also taking advantage of a scheme where you can actually, you know, bring on board SMEs, and then gradually they graduate and become the big businesses.
Okay. So what's a typical duration for registering a product from your end, typically? Because you talked about 2 layers, you talked about 2 committees. You know how this country is, committees sometimes takes a long time. So I'm wondering, anyway, so my question is, how long does it take for us to have a product? Assuming I have a product to sell, maybe phones or something, how long would it take me to get a certification?
So typically, like with all other businesses, it depends on the traffic, you know, but I think within maybe 2 months, you should be able to have your product certified. But there are accelerated processes as well, just that it comes at a fee. But I'm hoping that as I've taken this new seat, I can do some magic, you know. I can try and look at the processes again and see how we can meet, facilitate, or, you know, expedite our processes. So we know that sometimes we have delays, and sometimes it's not our fault. You know, you're looking at doing some critical test parameter, and then for some bad luck, the equipment gets broken, and then you have to now go and look for another, you know, competent lab to do 1 or 2 parameters. It does happen, but ideally you should be able to, you know, get your product certified in 2 months. I think 2 months. You know. But we're going to look at our processes and review them, and because we need the business as well. And if industry is not happy, we need to take steps to, you know, meets their needs. And it's possible. It's very possible. The only thing is the labs, really, is the labs. The inspection schedules, I mean, it can be done, but sometimes you're just unfortunate and you take the samples to the lab and parameters, if there are 5, 3 are done, 2, for some reason, the equipment is broken. So we have situations like that, but on a normal day, you know, these things are supposed to flow nicely. We've built a lot of capacity, have a lot of competent staff. The laboratories are well resourced, but you know, you can have a power outage and boom, you know, you have some hitches here and there. But we've taken note of it, and I'll sit with the team, and then we'll see how we can also meet the needs of our clients. Thank you.
All right, that sounds very optimistic, and thanks for that. Thanks for that assurance. I know you have a lot of offices in most of the regions. I know you have Kumasi, I know you have Takoradi and all that. Do they have the same capacity as possibly Accra and stuff like that?
No, thanks for the question. Not exactly. Yes, indeed, we have regional offices, but we haven't built capacity up to what we have in the head office, and for obvious reasons. But we are undertaking an exercise to find out. You know, it's a business entity, so you want to know which labs you want to situate in region A or B. You know, so some survey has been done, and reports have come in, and I know that there's a team looking at it. It looks like the Kumasi office was going to, I think there's a new office there, and they're planning on building some capacity or setting up some laboratories in some of these regions where we think that there's a need and the business is there, because, you know, cost benefit, you know, buying these equipments are quite expensive, and we should need to know that there's a business out there that can give us some returns if we situate the labs there. So it's one of the things that's being discussed. So for now, samples are brought to Accra. Well, very expedited processes, and then once they get in here, we just take them through the processes, and the certification is granted to them. You know, I know it's quite a laborious process for now, but also we can kind of litter the labs around. We need to do a bit of due diligence and make sure that, for example, you know, water is brisk business in most regions. So you want to do water, a lab that can probably handle parameters of water, because you can actually get the business and get some returns. So that is being discussed, and I know a report has been written, and I'm sure in due course we'll be able to tell which labs will be situated in which regions. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll ask you 2 more questions, then we'll come back later. We'll jump to Basil. Okay. So my question was on whether you have business, maybe if I want to pay more.
Sorry?
VIP services. So assuming I want to pay more for an expedited process, because from a business point of view, time is of essence. I mean, you do a lot of investment. I'm sorry, you do a lot of investment thinking that you will leapfrog to the process quicker. And it may take about six months to get certification, and that's time value of money. A whole lot of money going down the drain. So if an investor wants to pay more to have a process quick enough, is it possible? I know some regulators have specific unit for VIP services. Do you have the same, please?
Yes, we don't call it a VIP service, but we have some expedited services available. You just have to you pay a little bit more for the officers to stay extra hours to get those samples tested, and then your inspections are scheduled quickly, and you know it's possible. It's that practice done. That category of testing inspection is available. Yes.
Do we have like a transparency in terms of cost? And I mean, transparency, how much is it going to cost me if I want to register my product? Is it published anywhere on
Yes, our fees and charges are published. Yes, our fees and charges are published.
In terms of the expedite.
Everything, all our fees, every activity in GSE that involves fees and charges is public information. Yes.
Is it the same as the one by Parliament?
Yes, it's approved by Parliament.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that. So my last question, then I'll go. So I'm sorry for disturbing you this morning. It relates to where you don't have capacity on product registration and testing. Do you have any agreements or relationship with third parties where you don't have capacity to undertake those testing and product registration?
Yes, indeed we do. So for example, for wood and wood products, we have an MOU with FORIG, and we've done some MOUs with the University of Ghana for building and construction materials, with the BRRI in Kumasi. We have MOUs with our partners, and so we send samples there to get them done. But we will do our initial assessment of their labs as well, make sure that they have the competence to do the testing. So that activity is done. Once we are okay with you, then we sign an MOU, and we begin to conduct business with you. And your processes are monitored, your SOPs, everything. And even we are sending samples there, all these things, there's a protocol that is put together, and you're supposed to follow it through, because of our status. We have accredited labs, so, and that is what is actually giving us confidence in doing these tests. So before we assign you that task to do, we do our initial assessment of your laboratories, and when we are convinced you have the competence in terms of personnel as well as capacity, then we go ahead and do that. So we have quite a number of MOUs, within the country.
All right, Mr. Okoree, when I come back to you, I'm going to ask questions about quality, issues about quality of products and stuff like that. So I'll jump to Basil and we'll come back to you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi, Basil, please, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. So you are an industry player. The activity affects you. So in terms of product registration, from where you sit, is it easy to go through that process from where you sit? And what are the challenges from your end?
Okay, thank you for that.
I don't mean not zeroing to Unilever, but as a business, we're not speaking to
as industry. Yes, I'll speak as an industry. So yes, well, as industry, those products that fall under the mandate of the GSE as a regulator, there are laid down processes to follow to register, but like I think I rightly said, sometimes, and which Ms. Okoree also mentioned, sometimes the issue is the length or the period of approval. So sometimes the process delays because in one way or the other, the GSE is possibly hampered in testing of a product and all that. And also I think one thing that sometimes we do not also have insights into is these expedited fees. Most often than not, you have to probe before you're able to find out about these expedited fees. Because I believe that if these are made readily available to the industry, it makes decision-making easy, so that I know that once I want to maybe launch my product or bring my product by this time, I know that the expedited process would help me. This is how much I have to pay. This is the time period for which I'll get my approval. So those are some of the things, challenges that we face, and some of the recommendations that we ask from the GSA or solutions. Thank you.
I'm wondering whether as an industry you have any association where these things have been brought up.
Yes, so the Association of Ghana Industries, for which most of the industries in Ghana are members of. So usually if we have issues, we table it to the Association of Ghana Industry, and then they help us to articulate our views or advocate for us. So they serve as our advocates, either with the GSA or with the government, whichever one is applicable, to help us to get our points through and to seek whichever change that we want. Yeah.
From what you said, I mean, having regards to the business environment, having regards to recent development with ATA, after and other regional bloc, how do we ensure that we are competitive in the market? I mean, from your point of view and the role of the regulator.
Okay. So I think having a level playing field is important. It's also good what she mentioned. I think she mentioned in one of the questions that you asked there about bringing the micro, small, medium enterprises up to scale, trying to bring their bring them to in sorts of their set of compliance, trying to bring them. It helps so that together with the larger industries, they can stay competitive and compete with other products from the countries in Africa. Once there are applicable standards, and I think sometimes what also happens is that some of the products don't have the standards available. So maybe what happens is you may fall short and may not necessarily be compliant with, and that may affect your ability to trade freely. So what we would, if there are for whichever, what I would ask is that if there could be some sort of assessment to find out the sort of products that generally across Ghana people have. I know that there are a lot of standards, but it's not all products that have standards. So, and some of the standards too sometimes are outdated. So that's what sometimes may hamper trading freely across the African region.
So from your standpoint, do you think that the standards is well articulated by the standards board, or are they published so that any business person can really track what is expected of them from what you said? Do you think the standard is well articulated by the standards board?
Yes. So I happen to be a TC member, a member of one of their technical committees for cosmetics, and over the years, having helped to develop some of the standards, I would say that the content is exhaustive enough. So what they do is they have you have academia, you have industry, you have consumer rights, you have the GSA, you have FDA, you have all these people bringing in the relevant inputs into the standard to ensure that it covers everything from the manufacturer's end to the consumer's end. So I think what happens is that most of the time after the standards are developed, then they are gazetted and then sold. What we would like to see happen is that currently, you know, with the advent of technology and all that, you should be able to sit in America and purchase standards online. Unfortunately, I think from their portal, trying to purchase standards online have been a difficulty. So usually, unless you have somebody who knows somebody who can physically go there or talk to somebody to be able to purchase, and then maybe they send it through an email. But I think it would help if we could be able to access the standards by paying for it online. That would help a lot, so that wherever you are and you intend to trade, maybe within Ghana, you should be able to get free access to it by purchasing it without any hitches. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm glad you talked about the fact that you're part of their committees. Okay. But when we talk about SME, it's quite a vast concept. I mean, in some countries, SME is a company that has revenue of about £1 million or something, below £1 million. Ghana, we don't have a definition of SME. So is it, I mean, do you think that, I mean, businesses that are down there knows about this requirement to register their product? You see product being imported into the country and are being sold in the market. Do you think that the policies and the standards have sunk low with these industries? Or I think more work needs to be done?
I think more work needs to be done. So for some of these industries, they do not, for lack of a better word, they do not have the requisite knowledge of the standards. I think for some people, they do not even know. It's only at the stage where maybe the person wants to import, or yes, that they get to know about some of these things. And then if they don't know how to go about it, it also becomes difficult. So yes, more needs to be done, more education to let people understand the role of the standards authority. So I think usually what happens is that in our part of the world, we see the regulator like the police, and people tend to be scared. So we feel like if you go to them, maybe you'll be in trouble or something. But I think we need to change the narrative. Let people be able to come to you freely, to be able to get the right information so that they are always compliant and never fall foul of the law. So yes, more work needs to be done. And I think together with the industry, we can make this happen.
My last question to you, then we'll go to Madam Okoree. So on the processes, I know we have a lot of process, there's testing aspects and there's product registration. How do you see the role of FDA and the standards board? Do you see a conflict? You talked about the fact that there should be a fair playing field for businesses. In some countries, they have a specific a specific government agency responsible for enforcing standards and competition. Do you think that we may have to go that line? Because fair playing ground is quite a different concept.
Okay, so I think in the past, FDA, GSA used to be one until there was a clear separation. And for some reason, there's still that misconception, or people do not really cannot differentiate between what the GSA does and what the FDA does. But I think in recent times, both entities have done a lot of sensitization to let people know that there are different bodies, and it's clear that GSA is a standards developing body and also conformity assessment, while the Food and Drugs Authority is responsible as a regulator for food, drugs, and cosmetics, household chemicals, medical devices in Ghana. So I think what happens is usually in terms of trying to get your product certified or registered, that's where sometimes the confusion comes in, because the person doesn't know, am I supposed to just go to the FDA? Am I supposed to go to just GSA, or I'm supposed to do both? And sometimes they do not have the right information, so they may do things wrongly. And it is only maybe at a point you want to export or you want to import that you realize that I do not have this permit from any of these bodies, so I have to do this and I have to do that. So sometimes I think that's the difficulty people have, and it would help to raise that notion and let people be clear on what needs to be done. As to having a single body, I think what we currently have and the proposal that Madam Okoree mentioned, that to harmonize the processes of the FDA and the GSA, I think that is a welcome solution to industry, and that would help us to be able to be compliant always. Thank you.
Thank you, Basil. So I'll go to Madam Joyce and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
We come back, we'll look at issues about compliance and enforcement issue and other matters. So you can just prep yourself on that. Madam Joyce, sorry, back to you. So On issue about counterfeit products, I know in some countries like the EU, it's very important. They don't joke with some of these things. And I know you have an audit measure where you randomly go out and do an inspection and seize products. It is becoming very apparent that there are a lot of fake products in our market. I mean, you go and buy drugs and it doesn't perform the same function. I mean, and you still have the same symptoms after having taken it. What measures are the Standards Authority taking to ensure that the quality of products we have in the country, or even the quality of equipment or gadgets that we have in the country, is not causing harm to the consumers?
Okay, thank you. So we can look at it in two ways. So it could be the locally manufactured products as well as the imports. You know, even for locally manufactured products, you realize that people decide to kind of copy other products that are doing well on the market and labeling them, you know. Well, with the imports, I would say that we are the entry points, and the products that's coming through are supposed to be meeting our standards. And these same standards are being met by our local products. So it's a fair playing ground. So at the entry points, we have what we call the high risk goods. And so once you decide to bring a product, and depending on what product, if it's electrical, there are some energy efficiency gadgets, you would have to get a permit from the Energy Commission, etc. And then if it's the FDA is also at the port. So if it's a food product, you would have to get a permit, etc. And so for us, let's say for non-food products, for example, if you're unable to provide us with a certificate of analysis, for example, you would be advised to use our inspection services, which is the Easy Pass, or that's I think BVAC and Intertech. You know, we have a kind of a partnership with them where they would inspect or test these products before they enter the country. So we rely on these certificate of analysis from our partners. And like with every entry point, you know that there's always going to be some loose ends where you'd find substandard products finding their way onto the market. So even with that, we have an enforcement unit that will go onto the market. For example, like electrical cables, these are high-risk goods. And then they have a whole protocol with which they work with, a kind of intel system where people, they get tip-offs to say that, okay, there are products A on the market, and they give them the location, and they do the swoop of some kind, you know. And then these samples are brought to the labs and tested, and I think they even have one on site that they are able to do quickly. And once they detect that there's a problem, especially for the electrical cables, they are able to impound and lock up the place, etc., etc. And generally for our products where we have given you the mark of conformity, I know there's a market surveillance team that would go and do random sampling, you know, and then just to ensure that you're still, you know, in good standing. And now the law, our new law has given us the power or the mandate to actually give some punitive measures. So if you are found to offend or the law, you would be prosecuted, or you pay a fine of a couple of penalty units. And I would say that we're doing a lot, and you can imagine that there's a lot also of substandard goods on the market. But we have a team. That's why I told you that we had in my presentation, I mentioned that we had trading standards inspectors, and basically they are going to be on the market to ensure that the markets are cleaned up, and all these substandard products are gotten off the market, and you are sanctioned to be a deterrent for you, the importer. And it's an ongoing activity. There's actually a unit that is responsible for this enforcement. So we do our best in terms of copying or products. It's a bit tricky because we cannot actually handle. So if you come and tell me I'm doing water A and I've seen that my neighbor is doing the same branding, etc., it doesn't really fall in our purview, because I'm sure that there's other institutions that will handle, maybe the legal side that will handle people or businesses mimicking other products. We are more concerned about the quality of the product, the safety of the product, and so you can make the report to us. We have a customer services units. Normally when people have issues like that, they report. Sometimes we bring the fake one versus the original, and then the marketing department handles it, to the best of their ability. It is quite a tricky, how to prove that is really a fake product and all of that. But it's handled, to a good extent by our marketing department. And there's a desk that you can always come and then report these incidences. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. But I think that practically you would have a company going to FDA for a permit to do an importation, and they may come to you for some testing or sample, depending on the type of product. And these are things that affect human livelihood, our lives, So once there's a slip, the damage is quite serious. You would have kidney and other organ diseases nowadays because of product that we eat. So I think that there should be some proactiveness at the point of entry, because sampling like audits may not help in this way. I think at the point of at the board that there should be some inspection of all the products, so that they conform to the standards, they conform to the description that has already been given. My view is that adopting the sampling may not necessarily, because businessmen are in for to make the money, and sometimes a slip will cost us a lot.
No, indeed, we have officers at our ports, all our entry ports, points. We have officers that are there carrying out inspections, and unless it slips out, and I don't know if I'll be comfortable to mention that we are not the only ones at the port. You have customs also at the port, and they have been also schooled on our requirements, and you should not release a product until you've gotten the green light from GSA or FDA, So if a product or a consignment slips out of the port, then you should know that there are other forces, in the matter, because we have our officers at all entry points. And because we are not just the only ones to give the clearance, we will do our bit. And hopefully we would want customs to ensure that they see that we have released or given the green light for the product before it is released onto the market, But in any case, even if it comes out, the enforcement team, in their intel, they have quite a sophisticated way of collecting information, and they are well connected with the GUTA, etc., etc. So they are, you know, more or less each other's keeper. Like I always say, a kind of product stewardship. You know that I have got a genuine product and somebody is bringing a substandard one. I'll squeal on you. And so that intel is able to collect information, and then the enforcement unit will process it, and they are able to do the swoops and then, you know, get them out of the system. But it cannot be foolproof, you know. But it is being done back to back. And I'm sure that once the intel information is coming up, you know, we also take steps to get onto the market. And I think essentially the Director General's initiative of getting this trading standards inspectors is very timely, so that they are all over, they are in uniforms, and it's supposed to be very professional, well trained, and they're supposed to get onto the market and, you know, really clean up the market. It will take a while, but I'm sure that after a couple of years, we'll be able to see the decline in substandard products on the market. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Ms. Okoree.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up some few issues Basil talked about, like products with no standards and assessments of products taking a long time, outdated standards, products without standards, online purchase of standards. I don't know at which point I will address them. I tried to write some of them down, so
address
I don't
them.
know at
You can address
which point.
Let me ask two more questions, then you would
Sure.
address back to us.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so you talked about at the border point, the goods are inspected, and even domestically, they're inspected by your officers. So what measures have you put in place to ensure these officers are not compromised? Because despite these inspections, we still find these products which are fake. And I can speak from experience. I mean, you buy a night nurse medicine. In the UK, when I buy that medicine, one shot, when I take once a night, the next I'm fine. In Ghana, it takes me about 3-4 days and I'm still not recovered. So what measures are you taking to ensure that these officers are not compromised, putting our life at risk? It's very serious.
So if you're using the drug, I'm not dodging the question, but if you're going to use a drug, the nightness, then it's under the purview of the FDA. So the FDA would have to be very vigilant at the port to ensure that these products do not come into the system. However, if it is a product under GSA, I wouldn't say it is 100% foolproof. Definitely, you would have some bad nuts at the ports, and there will be a bit of connivance here and there. But like GSA, we rely a lot on intel, in a lot of information. You can get national security in the picture, and they're able to provide information on, you know, these kind of activities. Once they see that there's some, you know, fictitious documentation, you know, they're able to inform us if they see anything happening that is really out of place, and we then would take it up. And it's difficult, you know, because these officers are trained, retrained, and, you know, they give them a lot of training as to your integrity, being professional, and not being compromised. But you have a few cases like that, you know. But once you are detected, you are sanctioned seriously. You face the disciplinary committee, etc., like, you know. But it's not foolproof. You definitely will have some bad nuts that collide. But we're doing so much, and it's going to get even better. It's going to get better with the trading standards inspectors. I'm hoping that they would conduct themselves professionally and get the job done. And
All right, thank you, Ms. Okoree. Has there been any regulatory measure against a company for breach of standards, either by imposing of a fine or maybe, I'm just trying to pull your law, but it doesn't come true yet. But I mean, has any company been sanctioned for not complying with your law, and is that published so that it serves as a deterrent to other companies?
I know for the enforcement units where they have detected, before our law, the previous law did not give us those powers, if I can put it that way, to severely sanction them. So you check the law, and maybe it's 200 penalty units at a rate of probably some 30 pesos or something. So it wasn't deterrent enough. But the new law has given us, better sanctions, and they are paying the penalties as and when they breach the law. There are companies who are paying penalties seriously, and it cuts across imports and even local. If you're using our mark illegally and it's found out, you'll be sanctioned. So this new law actually has, given us better positioning. So once you breach, it's backed by law. You couldn't have sanctioned anybody if it was not in your law. And that was a difficulty GSA had previously, but with our new act, and all of that is covered. I'm sure it's just been rolled out in 2022, so it's still, in the implementation stages. And I'm sure that in the next couple of years, our story will be different. We will clean up the market as much as possible, and reduce the incidence of substandard products entering the market. And we rely a lot with the separatum analysis for the imports, so it makes business even easier. If you are able to route your products through the Easy Pass program, then you know that you just have to relax, and the Easy Pass program will just take care of your consignments. And then we work with them directly, it's authenticated, and then your products, your consignment comes in, you're able to just clear and then leave the port. So for those who do not go through that system, you have to now come and do some sampling and testing. And then once you're cleared, you're able to then release your goods. So that can actually attract demurrage depending on what product you have brought into the country and our capacity to test. So we always encourage them to use the Easy Pass and Intertech inspection bodies, so that it makes the movement of their consignments easier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Still on the quality, I know in the past, even prior to a new law, you had powers to confiscate assets. You had power to seize assets. I won't use the word confiscate, but seize products which did not conform to your standards. So that has always been there in terms of being able to seize products which in your view either is expired or does not have the right mark.
Yes, but the law did not give you only would more or less inform the minister. The law did not give GSA the power to sanction, and sanction properly. So even if you confiscated products, you are not even sure what to do with it. But this law it's clearer, and I'm sure they're going to come up with supplementary administrative, to be able to handle these end to end, But in the previous one, you identify a problem. You are just supposed to report to your minister, and at that point, it's not really clear, how to manage the process.
I would suggest that.
But for now, it's very, very severe. The sanctions are severe, and once you're found foul of the law, you'll be dealt with. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, from a business point of view, a sanction might be severe. From the regulator's point of view, But when they do the mathematics as to how much they don't see that penalty as quite deterrent enough. So I think you should be more proactive by publishing their names and making sure that our market is quite.
I think the enforcement. I think it is done. I think it's more of rather publishing products that are in good standing. I'll have to do a quick check on that. But I know that it's been discussed as to once you are identified, you are blacklisted. I think either you are published or then we rather those who are in good standing are actually publicized. But I'll just confirm that before we end the meeting.
I think once regulatory measure has been taken, and there is a database where we can all see what is happening, that in itself is a way of deterrence for others. So I would pause here so that you can react to Basil's comment, then I'll go back to Basil.
Okay, so Basil, I just took a note of some of your concerns. I think some of it was on the lengthy periods to give the license and outdated standards. So okay, I'll take it one by one. Products with no standards, for example. Before we develop a standard, there's some criteria we go through. Even though we know that there are probably 1 million products on the market, we are unable to have standards for all of them. We would have to do some economic, social, there's a criteria we use to prioritize standards that we develop because it involves a lot of money. And so if, for example, you identify a product and you think that as an industry player, you need a standard for that product, you should be able to approach us. You write to us, giving us some kind of justification. And a lot of people are doing that these days, that they are into the business of product A and there are no samples, there are no standards. And so they would want to engage GSA to assist them develop a standard for their product, So that is one scenario. We have international standards. So even if we do not have a national standards and you approach us, we are able to give you guidance to buy an international standards. That is also acceptable. So Basil, I don't think it should be too much of a problem. If you get back to us as to your challenges, we are able to get you a solution that would, help in the interim, if it's an international standards. We're going to do a quick search since we are members of ISO. We have access to quite a lot of international, regional standards. So it's always good to just reach out to us. I know people have some perception that it's difficult to approach us. I don't think that's the case. Just make your way to the library, the head office. You can send an email to info@gsa.com. I mean, there are various avenues. You write to the Director General and tell them exactly what the problem is, and it will be addressed. So that's with the products with no standards. We do not have standards for everything, but you can approach us and we'll get you something for the interim, or then if we don't have it at all, you can get an international standard, etc., etc. And then with regards to the assessment of products, like I mentioned, sometimes it's the lab can have issues, and so it will delay us a bit, but maximum, hopefully 2 months or 60 days, you should be able to get your test, your certification done. I will be honest to say that we have issues sometimes with the labs where there are quite a number of delays, but then we engage other laboratories that we have, done some assessment to assist us when we find ourselves in that kind of situation. And then with our data standards, we have a policy where every 5 years we do a kind of systematic review and try and revise our standards or review them, and if there's a need to revise them, we do that. I would say that for international standards, once they are withdrawn from their catalog, we have to withdraw them and update our records, you know. And then for our traditional products, if the standard has not been removed in circulation, it continues to be the standard in use. So even though we've gone past the 5-year policy, it continues to be the standards, the current standard. So we have a few issues here and there because, you know, the standards, we've even gone demand driven. So before it was a wholesale overhaul of standards when it's due, and even if it's not standards that people are interested in buying, we end up revising all the standards on the shelf. It doesn't make business, you know, sense. So we're going the demand driven way. If industry really needs it, you want to put your resources, you know, at the right places, and then makes a better impact. And then the online purchase of standards, indeed, we acknowledge that it's an issue and it's being addressed. And we are trying to digitize our processes. And we are almost, like 80–90%. We just need the Ghana co-ops. The financial part of the scheme is being looked at. So for now, you can actually do a Momo wherever you are, and then you can purchase a PDF copy of a standard. This is being patronized very well. So wherever you are in the world, you can make payments to the GSA account, and then we will send you a PDF version of the standard with all the security features. But very soon, you can do that directly, like what we see on the international platforms like ISO, etc. You make the payment with your Visa card, MasterCard, and then you can just download your PDF copy of the standard. We will get there definitely this year. And then accessing our standards, we have an online catalog. So I'm thinking that if you have an idea of what standard you want, you should be able to go onto the system, put in some keywords. If you know the standard number, you can put it in there, but it's something you're just researching on. You can put in keywords and then it will bring up some of the standards and you should be able to access it. But it will just give you the scope of the standard. It's not the standard proper. You would have to purchase the standard to have full access to the standard. Otherwise, you need to come to the library, and then we have reference copies on the shelf that you can actually utilize. And then regarding knowledge of standards by the SMEs, indeed is a challenge, and we are looking at simplifying our standards, you know, so that can reach the SMEs. And for now, we have what we call pictorial standards. So noting that our standards are technical, we've tried to bring them into like pictures. We call it the pictorial standards. So these ones are available in the library, you know. So we have pictorial standards for a couple of products. And mainly agric. We have quite a number for agric products. So the farmers are able to interpret it. It's just pictures and maybe a tick for yes and a no for some defect in a product or something. So it's been simplified. And we also have handbooks, you know, to help with the implementation of the standard. And then approaching GSA for assistance is this: we behave like police, the police That is indeed the perception. But I'm thinking that if you are able to walk into GSA and meet, the receptionist, and then you tell her what exactly you want, she should be able to direct you to the relevant officer to address your problem. There should be no problem coming to the head office and getting information on whatever you want to. We are not policemen. We are taking a stance of getting people on board. We want to move away from that perception and rather get people on board. Otherwise, they're going to get underground, and then you have the market flooded with unsafe products. When that's not what we intend to do. We want everyone on board. However, when you come on board, we expect that you stay on board and don't, you need to be in compliance with the standard and the requirements of the standard. So for me, I think we are very approachable. I can't even imagine that you came here and we have you should be able to report any case where you've come here and you didn't get good treatment. We are very transparent, very approachable, and I would always suggest, if you do not know even what to do, just ask to be sent to the library, and you can even talk to the librarian, and she would quickly get you an officer who can assist you with if the reception was not able to solve your issue or your concern. But they have been trained to engage our clients and then hand them over to the officers who can actually address the direct problem they have come in with. So Basil, I hope I've been able to touch on a few of your points I took note of.
Yes. One, thank you for answering those questions. On the timeline for the certification, industry will hold you to it.
Yes.
And then on the online purchase, looking forward to that as well.
Perfect.
And then also on the online catalog, so my experience, I found it by meddling with this website, and that's how I just chanced upon the online catalog. So that, yes, it
so it's
helps,
not visible enough.
It's not visible enough. So
okay, I'll pass it. The IT is right here. I'll pass it on to IT.
It makes
and
it
they will
easy,
address
but
it.
yeah, when you go to the website, you can click on a button and you can see it is visible. Exactly. That would help.
Thank you for the feedback. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for addressing Basil's concerns and the concerns of all of us on the call as well. So I'll go to Basil, then we will come back to some of the questions in the chat box. So Basil, when you reflect on your business operation, how has the compliance with these regulations that have been laid down by the SGA affected your businesses?
Well, of course, it will affect us in one way or the other. It hasn't, I would say more or less, it helps us. As I made, when I was presenting, I said that it helps us to do a continuous monitoring and improvement of our processes, to invest in the people to be able to maintain the high standards, and also to be able to gain that consumer trust and confidence in our brands. So I would say that the standards are important, adhering to them are important. The impact is also good, but I think sometimes, like I rightly said, sometimes it's the notion or the misconception that people have that sometimes it's a hindrance to free trade. That is where sometimes people get it wrong, and that becomes a stumbling block, and you would find people not wanting to do the right thing. So yeah, that's what I have noticed from the adherence.
What will be your advice to enterprises and businesses that are not responding to the requirement of the GSA in terms of what is expected of them? What would be your advice? If you have benefited from it, what would you advise them to do?
My advice is, if you want to be competitive, if you want to be sustainable, it would be best to be compliant. It helps. So today you're a local player, and so for you, maybe it's just you're thinking locally, but you keep growing. And as a business, you'll be making profits, you'll be expanding, you'll be having new technologies on board, you have new ideas, and definitely to get to a point that you may have to go outside. It's either you're exporting or you have operations even outside Ghana. And it will be best if you're able to comply locally. Trust me, complying outside would also help. So it's good. No matter where you are, whether you're micro, small, or medium, it will be best to comply, do your best, find out how in your space you can be compliant, and then do that. Because once you do that, it builds that culture. And then once you go to the point where you would want to be, it becomes an easy thing from the top down that everyone would understand and adhere to.
Okay, lastly for you, do you consider the compliance, you consider it easy to comply with what GSA is asking you to do in terms of, I'm sure there's an ongoing compliance after the registration. Do you find it easy, and how have you navigated through those quality assurance standards as well?
So the truth is, it is not always easy to comply. Sometimes, and I would say this cautiously, sometimes there's a disconnect between what let's say the global standard wants or is asking and what actually is being practiced in the industry. So because the industry has, let's say, more or less its own standards of working and all that, sometimes it becomes difficult to be able to take this on board because it may not be compatible with the current processes that you have. And so that's where sometimes a problem comes in. So it is not always easy. What I think we can do is, if we should have more broader stakeholder consultations or talks between industry and GSA and whichever regulator is also available, to be able to understand what our pain points as industry are and how we can get to the point where the regulator wants us to be, and also for the regulator to also understand how the industry works and how they can make whichever standards or regulations beneficial to the industry, because we need each other to be able to succeed. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Okay, last question, then we would go to the questions in the chat box. So in terms of collaboration between these regulatory bodies, I know talking from Unilever standpoint, most of your product will go to FDA, and you still need standard sport. I know Revenue Authority, GRN, that's a different matter. I mean, their interest is quite different. It doesn't bother on quality, although there's sometimes they will seize this product. What would you recommend should be the way forward in terms of collaboration between the FDA and the standard sport?
So harmonization, they should be able to harmonize their operations or their processes to make it easier, so that it's a one-stop shop for any industry when you want to be compliant with anything, to be able to do it. And I think, as she rightly said, there is a plan to do that. And as industry, we are looking forward to that, so that it becomes easier to be compliant and there is no confusion where you would have those bad nuts or those loose ends taking advantage of unsuspecting industries and then letting them fall within the cracks. So the harmonization would help, and the collaboration between them too would also help. And also I think as I also said, I think the education as to the roles that each of them play is also important. yes, to a greater extent, they've been able to show us clearly what the difference is, but still there are people who still do not understand the roles that they play. So once that is very clear, I think it will make things easier. Once the harmonization comes on board, you know as an industry what exactly you are doing and who you are supposed to see. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Basil. So, Madam Joyce, I would go to the chat box and read some questions from there. But I just wanted to check with you: is there a timeline for the implementation of the online support? Is there any timeline?
I'm thinking that latest by the next quarter. We've just started the second quarter. Definitely this year, because there are some directorates that have started the processes, and I'm thinking that for sorry, I was going to say for standards, but well, for standards, we got some support from UNIDO, Wacom, and they got some of our processes digitized, and they're going to take us to. But I know under the World Bank, there's a program that is digitizing our processes. I think it's GTP, Ghana Transformation Project or so. GTP, sorry, GTP. So let's say 1 year. I don't know, but I would, to be on the safe side, let's say by this year, it should be done. As for the processes, most directorates have, put their processes together. So it's just left with the core ops where, what's it called? The payment systems are connected, and you'll be able to purchase or access our services and pay for them, online. And then, we're trying to remove the fiscal interventions, and really, make the system quite seamless, and then try and remove all this human intervention, and then get services done on time, payments done on time, and then the outcomes expected, received by the client on time. So the Director General is very, very passionate about it, and I'm sure we should be on board very soon.
All right, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that, especially the payment systems and seamless. Yes. Because for businesses that we work for, efficiency is very important for them. They want things done in a timely manner. There's a question about whether you have a mechanism for people to report officers of the GSA unanimously, so that under whistleblower, so that whatever they mention about or the complaint they make about them, their name does not come up, or their names do not come up. Is there anything like that?
Unfortunately, I would not be able to give an answer. I just know that national security gives us quite a lot of information, but a whistleblower is important, that we are able to have a platform to get that kind of information. I'm sure there's something in place under enforcement, but I'm not too sure what it is. You should be able to give us, there'll be a whistleblower and give us information on recalcitrants, the field. Yeah. And they come up a lot, but I haven't actually found out what exactly has been put in place for people who get this kind of treatment, or have information, staff, not conducting themselves well. There's definitely something, but I would have to check on that.
All right, I'll come back. I'll come back after this.
The anonymous.
Yes. You mentioned that regional certification, that we are part of ASO. And there's someone wants to know how much it costs to have that certification.
ASO certification.
Yes.
I do not have a figure. It hasn't been determined. No, but it's a new area we are looking at. Having the mark, regionally. But apart from the certification mark, we even have the Made in Ghana logo, which is also another mark that you probably find on some products. It's just a little still, once you have the GSA certification, going up a little to get the Made in Ghana logo, it's just another management system here or there, and you are able to qualify for the Made in Ghana logo. For the African level, I know there are officers, there's a committee that is looking at it. So it should be on board, soon. I know that it's been discussions. It's in discussions. So it's coming up. It's coming up. I just don't have the figures. I don't have the figures.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. In terms of what's the form? All right. Someone wants to know about what measures you are putting in place to prevent uncertified products into the market, and how are you effectively doing that?
Uncertified products. So I'm thinking that if you have, you're using our mark. Let me start from the point where you're using our mark, and you're supposed to be coming for your renewals to maintain you in good standing. However, you don't come in a couple of years, you're likely maybe to be out, not in good standing. There, if you use our mark, we're able to do a market surveillance and get hold of them. But for those not using our mark, what I notice is that for up and coming SMEs, when they begin their production, first of all, they do not even have any information on the standard. They do not have any information on the institutions that are regulating their products or where to go to. They start small scale and they want to quickly market and sell their products, get some money, and then do, prepare new products and then put them out on the market. Some of it, I'll say, is they're totally ignorant about our processes and don't know what to do. And so the products are there. Some also think that they do not have the money to even come and get their products certified, So when we go onto the market, we target more of our products that are bearing our mark and yet are not in good standing in terms of, the data we have. If you got your certification this year, we're expecting to see you maybe in 2 years, and you haven't come and you're still placing your products on the market, then we can really get hold of you, But for these SMEs, if it's a food product, I know the FDA is also vigilant and they are also on the markets. And, you even pick a product, the contact details and address, everything, it doesn't lead you to anywhere. The phone numbers, you can't even trace the product to any facility. Some are doing it in their kitchens, their garages, So I can say that there's a small challenge there. And that's why I kept saying that once we identify SMEs, we want to bring them on board rather than scare them away and then they operate underground. So we're looking at how we can have a scheme that is not, as expensive as, the bigger ones, and then gradually grow them. We want to, like I mentioned earlier, rather bring them on board than, scare them away, because Ghana is big. These products can be sold anywhere on our blind side, even though we are hoping that with the numbers of the trading standards inspectors, I'm sure that they'll be able to bring on board some of these SMEs that haven't come on board. But I would hopefully suggest that we are more friendly with the SMEs. It is very difficult for them to access funding, to start a business, and all the other requirements they have to meet. We acknowledge that food safety is paramount, safety of the product is paramount, the quality is also paramount, you know, and so we would rather embrace them and then let them know. So most of them are probably not even knowledgeable about what the requirements they need to meet before they can actually put their products on the market. So I don't know, uncertified products. If it's we were looking at in my presentation where, remember, there was a slide that talked about certifying imported products. That would also be helpful if we are able to commence that activity. So then once we're going to look out for a mark of some sort. So you cannot just bring your products. Once we find a product, it doesn't have the mark. It means it didn't go through the import certification scheme. You know, there are things, interventions that are coming up, and you know, learning from other sister organizations on how things are done. Because in Africa, you can imagine, Nigeria is a huge market. There are all sorts of things on the market, so it's quite difficult. But I think gradually we should be able to be innovative and get, you know, some of these things at a minimum, you know, get the bad matter. But for me, SMEs, they're the engine of growth. You don't want to let them go under. I think that we're better off bringing them on board and then gradually taking them through industrial support, training, you know, letting them know the standard, you know, and then they are comfortable. And there are a lot of if I could say, testimonies that I've heard, you know, especially in the cosmetic sector. And well, they got some support from UNIDO as well, you know, the shea butter sector, the cluster, you know, very, very beautiful stories of where they were before. They'll tell you their fears. They thought GSA was a big monster in the FDA, etc. But working with them gradually, have trainings, you know, engaging them, they have embraced the whole process and they have gotten huge markets and they have very good stories. You know, the export potential is there, the markets are there. I mean, it's just wonderful stories ahead, you know, and with some of the sectors. So I'm hoping that we will do better and not chase them too much. But there are recalcitrants that the enforcement units will not spare, because health and safety is important, and you don't want to wire your investment a house and then you put on a light and your house goes burst in flames. So there are some areas we put our foot down and you'll be punished for, you know, going against the law. It's important that you also want to save people's investments, and you find houses in flames because of some poor wiring done, or the quality, most of the time, the quality of the wiring in the facility, you know. So we need to also protect the client and their investments. Thank you.
All right, Madam Joyce. Just a few questions and we'll bring the curtain to a close. In respect of exports, okay, when a company has FDI certification and they don't have GSA certification, would they be able to export, whether to the UK or, you know, the AFTA jurisdiction, or is the two are mandatory?
It also depends on the requirements of the country you are taking your goods to. You know, some countries would require export certificate from the GSA, you know, and we have a department that handles these consignment inspections, etc. So I'm sure to be a case by case. I know, for example, for our fish exports to the EU, GSA is the competent authority. And so if you go and get an FDA certificate or some permits of some sort, you still will not be able to enter the European market. And we've been the competent authority for many, many years. I think since 1997 or 98, thereabout. And that is all the Europeans know. So for that, for example, it's a purely a GSA activity. And the FDA also have some activities that, for example, I know that for palm oil, Sudan 4 dye, which is a contaminant in the palm oil. In some countries, you need to have the FDA report. You know, even though we are able to also, so it's a case by case. We have been doing export certification for many, many years, So there are companies that still come to us because that is what their principles out there, you know, that direction we are going. So they need the GSA export certificate, and so they actually come for that consignment inspection and get their certificate. So I would rather say it's a case by case situation. Yeah.
I'm aligned with you on that. Thank you very much. So I would go to Mr. Ampofo for his last comment, and come back to you, Madam Joyce, for your last comment. Then I would make a few comments and we'll close. Basil?
Yes. So thank you for this webinar, to be able to interact with the GSA and to present what our pain points are and how we can collaborate better with them. Looking forward to the initiatives that they want to implement, and especially for the import certificate. It's something that I'm interested in, and I would want offline. I think I'll get in touch with Madam Joyce and find out what exactly it entails and what we as industry are expected to do from our end. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, thanks, Basil. Madam Joyce, your final remarks.
So I would like to say that GSA is a public institution, and our functions or our objectives really is to support industry, public institutions, etc. You know, so I think that the SMEs, the business entities, and manufacturing, importers, exporters, you should take advantage of GSA. Come over and tell us your problems. We are able to sit with you and come up with tailor-made solutions for SMEs. Our joy would be that we have many people on board our scheme to make you have export potential, because ultimately I'm sure every SME starts today and says, I'm going small, but I hope to be able to export to, you know, market A, market B, outside Ghana. I think that's everyone's dream, I'm sure. So I would suggest that if you have issues, you should reach out to us, be it a standard, be it a delay in certification, in delay in testing. You should reach us. You should write a letter to the Director General informing him of your concerns. Don't leave it with the officers that you would meet maybe at the reception. Follow it with a letter. You know, formalize that process and you would get results. You see, it's always good to formalize it so that you can always trace it back. I got a request on this day. I followed up with this, and I did not get any attention. Our doors are open. Take advantage. We have a library, and you can access many standards. Even if we haven't adopted these standards, you are able to buy international standards. It's also available. You can buy local standards, you can buy international. If you want a Kenyan standards, you can contact us. We have access to, through our national inquiry points, we're able to reach out to many other NSBs to assist you. We acknowledge we don't have all the standards. So we are able to, we have all these avenues to reach out to our sister organizations to help us with standards. Please, we are not the police. We will only become a police when it's under the enforcement, when there are problems. But for startups, for businesses, we want you to go. And we want the story to change. It shouldn't be that you came here, you got a bad response. I'll take it upon myself. If you have a problem, you can come to Joyce. I'm sticking out my neck, and I'll try and solve it to the best of my ability. And I'm sure all the directors, the heads of department will be able to do so. So feel free to tell your fellow colleagues, fellow SMEs that GSA is here to rather build the SMEs to grow. We need all the revenue, the foreign exchange in the country, and it is only the SMEs that can do that for us. It's going to create employment, going to generate wealth, and it's going to, be of benefit to all of us. So I will stick my head out. Anytime you need help, you can call me directly. You can send me an email, and I'll be able to address you the issue to the best of my ability. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank, I don't know if I can give my closing remarks, but I was going to thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm happy that I was able to be part of these discussions, and I'm happy that I've been able to, engage, and I'm always open to discuss. I really need SMEs to grow. That is really my passion, that you'd be able to come here and we'll sit you down, you tell us what you want to do, and get a team to support you. We would be proud that we're able to certify products for like 100 SMEs. They are able to share with their friends, how they got to where they are. So please, our doors are always open, and please feel free. You can be a whistleblower for us. We are 100% open, and we would discuss all issues with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Joyce, and thank you, Basil, for making time for this event. I would like to say that Ghana needs money, and we need to make sure that the environment is business friendly. And so one of the ways is to make sure that the processes are simplified. And that's why I'm happy that the IT drive is being pursued by the GSA in line with government's objective of digitization of the processes. So we're happy to see that development. I would also suggest that GSA may have to consider having a session for SME desk, so that the vast majority of SMEs in the country that are not aware of your mandate can take advantage of the processes. It becomes a win-win for you. You get your revenue, they get quality certification for their products. So that's something that we have to also look at. And the third thing I would suggest is education. From the conversation, it's clear that there's no knowledge gap somewhere. And so I know you've started the process, but we need to continue. Maybe we have to come on LinkedIn or Instagram or something, so that at least there's some snapshot of your laws or your requirements going out there to the business community, including the SMEs. And also you may have to clarify, it would also have to clarify your role as Standards Authority and FDA, because it looks as though that distinction is blurred within the business community. So that's something that the education would clarify the distinction. between the two roads and a proper coordination help so that there is no delay in getting products to the market. So once again, thank you very much, Madam Joyce. Basil, I'm very happy to have you. I also want to thank the participants. We will communicate our next webinar to you very soon. Have a nice day and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye for now. Thank you so much.